we will just jump right into the next session with Mr. Sridhar Gadi on building sustainable cities through digital technology and digital technology. So I call upon Rajesh Nair, Associate Partner EY, to actually introduce the speaker. Over to you, Rajesh. Thank you.
Thanks, Arun. Hi, Sridhar. Good to see you in person.
Hey, Rajesh, good
Hi.
afternoon. Same here.
Hi. So here is a short introduction to Sridhar Gadi, if you've not heard of him before or seen some of his videos. Sridhar is the founder and executive chairman of Quantela, which is a new age digital technology solutions firm. Quantela was awarded as a technology pioneer 2019 by the World Economic Forum and is into automating and optimizing urban infrastructure operations. With his dynamic leadership, Sridhar has built clientele and strategic partnership with many of the Fortune 500 companies. An innovator by virtue, he has invested in and is an advisor to multiple successful startups in the space of digital data center, blockchain, and the Internet of Things. Sridhar is also part of the board of directors and advisors of several of the world's esteemed organizations. In the light of the leadership, Sridhar and Quantela have demonstrated on high-level strategic dialogue on governance of IoT across stakeholders and regions, particularly related to smart cities and IoT in public reality. Sridhar was invited to be a member of the Global Internet of Things Council by the World Economic Forum's Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution. This Global IoT Council provides strategic guidance to the international community on governance and cooperation and priorities for IoT technologies, which also helps to facilitate and advance policy initiatives across the center's network for global technology governance. Sridhar is a Harvard Business School graduate and has been quoted in a number of business magazines and leading newspapers. He is a proud recipient of our EY Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2008, Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award 2007 by Tana. Sridhar has also been awarded as the Smart City Leader of the Year 2019 by the Economic Times and the Smart City Person of the Year 2019 by the Business World. I was telling Sridhar when I spoke to him yesterday, when I read his CV, I imagined somebody who's 75 years old because of the number of accomplishments, the number of institutional groups and committees he's on. And we're really proud to have you and to speak to our entrepreneurs and the folks of TiE Kerala. Welcome, Sridhar.
Thank you, Rajesh. So can I get started?
Sure, absolutely.
Sure. PowerPoint. Let me. So can you see the PowerPoint presentation, Rajesh?
I can see your screen. Yeah, now it's there. It's coming.
Okay. So thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you, TiE Kerala, for the opportunity. So, so let me ask you this question. So everybody would like to, by heart, want to do something for the society, create positive impact on the society. Really, how many businesses in the world where every minute you spend, every dollar you spend, every effort you spend and your team spends has a huge impact on the society, either it's economical, social, or environmental. The intersection of everything is what we do, and we do it for the cities. And why cities? If you look at cities all over the world, only 2% of the surface area in the world occupied by the cities. But in reality, 80% of the GDP contribution comes from the city, though it's only 2% surface area is occupied. And more than 50% of the world population live in city, and it's increasing further and further. While you are leveraging the value and increasing the GDP contribution, you're also giving huge amount of greenhouse gas contribution, which pollutes the city. Around 75% of the pollution is happening because of the city's growth. So there is a huge opportunity, huge economic growth in the city. At the same time, you have huge challenge in terms of one second. Just sorry. So there is a at the same time there are several challenges in the city. Let me talk about social, environmental, and economical. Each area, what kind of challenges cities are facing. While I said that 50% of the people are living in cities, there is huge amount of population moving into city. They estimate that from now until 2050, around 2.5 billion more people are going to move into the cities, which means it's going to increase from 50 to 70% of the world population are going to move into the cities, which is going to put further strain into the environment, further pollution. At the same time, huge challenge on the traffic, because it will be, you're seeing congestions today and you'll see more and more congestions in the future. At the same time, crime rates, pollution, everything will increase. I think most of you might have articles last 1 week back. Delhi was almost about to close down and all the schools are closed, not because of the pandemic, but because of the pollution. So there is a huge urgent need for city infrastructure to be upgraded and focus on the environment and make it more and more friendly societies. But you can't just increase the size of the road, or you can't just increase size of the city to reduce the pollution and increase and better infrastructure. There is a huge role for technology to play in this whole thing to improve the social, environmental, and economic for the cities. So that's where the technology role will come. But at the same time, today, I mean, this digitizing the cities, it's $1 trillion opportunity. But at the same time, most of the cities, except living New York, Paris, major cities, most of the cities are cash strapped. So they don't have enough cash, and what they do is they depend on the federal budgets to support their services. They support the citizens. Apart from less revenues generated by the city compared to what expenses they have, pandemic has created further strain in city funding, because for example, cities in US, less parking, more and more shops are closed, more and more restaurants are closed, less taxes revenues collected, which means the revenues are less. At the same time, cities has requirements to take care of the people, vaccination, setting up the quarantine centers. The demands are more, and then at the same time, revenues collected are less. On above, people working from home, they wanted to get services from home and do learning and education from home, which means there is again huge demand to cities to provide Wi-Fi services so that everybody can operate and get the services from home. So how do you help this $1 trillion fund requirements to make it cities better? So there is a huge opportunities for the corporates to be part of this entire ecosystem and convert into private partnerships models. So that's where Quantilla started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly give you who we are and our journey. When we started versus today, technologically how we evolved, pricing wise how we evolved, go to market size how we evolved, and how we see this as a huge opportunity not only for Quantilla or similar companies for the growth, but how do we make it sustainable, happy cities for the future? So we started around 6 years back. And as I told you, everything what we do is for the societies. And we, though we're a technology company, we provide outcomes to the cities, and we monetize and we make the revenues out of the outcomes, not just selling the technology. Recently, our company is valued around $450 million by doing the Series B. So just let me start with how technologically we have evolved as an organization. Quick background of me, my personal journey. I built and sold multiple software services companies in the past. Then when I used to go to customers used to say, you are a mini TCS or mini Wipro. How are you doing different? How are you special? And also personally, after a couple of exits, I always wanted to do something back to the society. I was looking for a technology which we can build, which can be a world class, which can globally scale, at the same time, huge impact on the society. That's where this opportunity of making the cities digitized and provide better societies has a huge opportunity for me to do both, build a technology platform, make it global, at the same time provide a huge impact on the society. When I started, so smart cities, so some of you may be new to smart cities. Let me explain what smart cities is. So digitizing cities is there since a long time. Some people make lighting smart, some people make waste smart, some people make traffic or safety. But when you want to do everything together as a single platform, you have a command control center to operate all these different elements from a single platform to operate holistically. That's where the whole smart city concept comes. But at the end of the day, whatever you do, it has to benefit to the societies, benefit to the citizens. So we entered into the smart city market. We saw that there are several companies are doing lighting smart, parking smart, everything individually. Not many is doing a single platform, a single dashboard to operate entire city infrastructure from a single platform and set the policies and manage cities efficiently. Then we built a dashboard for cities. At that time, Cisco was market leader in smart cities. They are extremely good at connecting like in any kind of sensors, any kind of videos, any kind of digital infrastructure into the platform, normalize the data and securing it. You know that Cisco is one of the best networking company that way. So when they were doing it, they don't have a dashboard which to operate everything from a single platform. That's how we become their OEM partners, which means whenever they sell a smart city platform, we make a small revenue out of it, which has given, if you look at just Cisco as a company, they do around $14 billion for governments. So government business, and they have maybe 10,000 salespeople selling to governments. Now, since they are selling our platform, every time they sell the platform, make the revenue. So suddenly we have around 10,000 people selling our platform indirectly or directly. So we started making revenues. So it's a great start. Then after some time, we started looking at how many people, how many cities are really using the technology what we have developed. The utilization is very, very less. Then we realized, see, we are not selling it to Fortune 500 companies where they have a CTO, there is a clear accountability of the investments, to leverage this technology and get the outcomes. Because in government, for example, if you look at in India, an IAS officer, every 2 years they change. Today, the government officer might be very proactive in terms of leveraging technology. The next officer, it may not be high priority. So we said there is no use unless somebody uses this technology and create value for the societies. So as I told you before that, I built multiple software services companies. I said, okay, I'm giving a dashboard and Cisco is just selling the platform and like a Cisco router sold and gone, right? So we wanted to become being ran services business. I said, I want to be a technology with a service now mindset. I'm going to own the responsibility to deliver what we promise, implement the technology and show the customer how it works. That's where, most of the startups, when we start any product with certain kind of assumptions, because any new product, new startup is you're trying to do something new. You're envisioning some potential opportunity and you're trying to do something. When you go from 1,000 feet level to 100 feet level, everything changes. So that's where when we become a technology company to technology service now from 1,000 feet to 100 feet level, there is a huge amount of understanding what exactly smart city means, what kind of platforms we need. People used to look at IoT platform and they used to call smart city because some people think it's just connecting sensors is a smart city. Some people think connecting different video streams into a smart city is a smart city. Some people think just AI platform to leverage all this data is a smart city platform. With understanding of implementing several projects, we understood that smart city platform is a combination of IoT, OT, IT, satellite data, open data. How do we bring everything into a single platform and operate as a single platform? That's smart city. So we pivoted from a dashboard into a purpose-built smart city platform. So when we built a purpose-built smart city platform, we started winning projects after projects. The reason is because most of our competitors used to have just IoT or just OT or just open data platform. So when we built it, within 1.5 years, we got several projects, around 100 smart city projects globally. Rajesh, as you mentioned, we got great recognition globally, starting from World Economic Forum to several platforms recognize the kind of work what we have done. It was fantastic, ride for us. Then this pandemic happened. So suddenly the city's focus moved from technology to solving pandemic. At the same time, as I told you, since people started operating from home, cities also need to provide Wi-Fi services and urban services on a click. So we said, hey, the governments doesn't wake up. Governments doesn't look for technology; they look for outcomes. That's where we started focusing on not just providing a technology and implement it. We provide the actual outcomes what cities are looking for. So they wanted to reduce the traffic violation. That's a solution we provide. They wanted to provide the reduce the environment pollution. That's exactly outcome we do that. So that's so if you look at the evolution, how we become a dashboard to an entire platform, then to outcomes as a solution. Now let me talk about the go-to-market strategy. As I mentioned to you, when we become OEM to Cisco, so that's as a OEM partners, that has given a huge opportunity to scale as a startup with 10, 15 employees. Then once we understood and once we built this purpose-built platform, then we partnered with system integrators who bid for different smart cities projects, like the L&T, Honeywell, Sterlite, Bell. They are the smart city system integrators, and several technology urban operators. Urban operators are, if you look at in US and Europe, lots of this government infrastructure, it could be lighting, it could be waste, already outsourced to urban operators. They manage the city infrastructure. We started becoming partners to them. Telecom operators, starting from Verizon to Bell. So they all are setting up 5G network and trying to monetize city infrastructure. So we started becoming partners to each one of them so that SI, when he bids any projects, we become their partners. Each urban operator operates 500,000 cities, right? They wanted to optimize their cost. They wanted to provide better citizen service. They want to increase revenues for the cities. They use our platform. So we started becoming their partners. Then, as I mentioned to you, from there, we started working with the actual customers as well and providing the end-to-end solutions. So in this journey of technology evolution and go-to-market evolution, there is a pricing evolution as well. When we were OEM, we just used to charge small percentage of the license fee, whatever. If Cisco is selling at $1 million, we get some percentage of the license revenue. From there, when we built entire platform, we call it purpose-built smart city platform. We started selling perpetual license. We just sell the license, city uses it, we get the money, and we get fixed money, and we get maintenance revenue for 5 years. Then from there, we moved into subscription. So that way, we don't charge capex to the cities, we charge yearly subscription to the cities. Then later we realized, some cities are small, some cities are big, some cities wanted to start with pilot, some cities wanted to scale big. Then we started device level. For example, you are only making 10,000 lights, I'll charge per light. If you are working on 10,000 smart lights, I'll charge for 10,000 smart lights. Not only that, I will not charge just because I'm connecting 10,000 devices. If I promise 98% upside, 99% upside, I will also charge SLA based and device based. From there, we got into actual outcome based. As I mentioned to you, when I say outcome, it could be optimization of infrastructure, it could be revenue generation, or it could be purely citizen services quantifiable. Whatever the outcomes we provide, we charge percentage share of it. So that's how we become outcome as a service company for smart cities, because the city administrators don't wake up for buying the technology. They wake up with the problems. We go and say that, hey, this is the problem I'm going to solve, and I'm going to take share of it. So just give you a quick example of outcomes, what we're talking about. When you say monetization, it could be reduction of costs or increasing revenues. When you say non-monetizable, we save lives, we reduce traffic, we make it smooth traffic, we provide better citizen service. So each one, based on the services we provide, we we charge them. So there's some of the deployments what we have done, just to give a quick background. Since I'm talking to most of the participants, maybe in Kerala, I'll just give you one of the outcome example what we have done in Kerala. Kerala, at a city level, there is a safety systems are in place, as well as national highways. But the state highways, there is a requirement for upgrading state highway safety infrastructure. So along with Keltron, we have invested into the entire technology infrastructure to make state highways safe. The challenge at that time was, still the project is in the end stage, improving state highways on par with national highways. By doing it, reducing traffic violations, reducing accidents, and whenever any accident happens, improving the turnaround time, either for ambulance or patrolling. So when we do that, instead of charging upfront capex, we convert capex into opex, and we charge SLA based on what we have achieved in terms of SLAs, and we charge on a quarterly basis. So that way, cities and the government, state governments will be able to monetize what we have done by charging the traffic violation ticket. At the same time, that's not the revenue they are into. What is helping them is to reduce the accidents, reduce traffic violation, providing better patrolling, better ambulance. That's the outcome they are getting it. But since without investment, they will be able to create revenues as well, and we are meeting the SLAs, and we will be able to generate the revenues as well. I'll give you one more example in Middle East. In and around school bus, some of you, if you lived in US, you know that how much respect we give when school bus stops or school bus is going, right? We almost stop and until this, but not in every place, right? So in and around school bus, they have seen that lots of traffic violations are happening, accidents are happening. At the same time, the safety of the student, how many students entered the bus, how many students left the bus, at what speed bus is going, whether students are safe within the bus or not, with everything. So again, we invested around $14 million for this project, and we created entire technology to make a school bus and in and around school bus safe for a student from starting from home, going to school until coming back. Entire technology is developed by us. Here again, we don't charge. We haven't charged for the entire technology. Instead, whatever the traffic violations are created, we will take a revenue share of it. So, and we operate it for them, we maintain the SLAs for them, and we make it self-sustainable, and it's a long term. So this is another example. I'll give another third example, and I'll leave it here. So with the potential opportunity in this space. So there is a place called Erie, Pennsylvania in US. We have done for several places, but it's one of the good examples I can give you. City mayor, we were working with them. City mayor said, hey, certain areas of our city, kids were getting low grades. And they wanted to know why kids are getting low grades. Then they have done some market study, and they found out that kids doesn't have internet at home. And with pandemic, it's much more challenge. So kids has to go back to school to do the homework. So they were not performing well. At the same time, with pandemic, now studying from home, which means they can't do homework at all. At the same time, they don't have funds to do those projects. She said, hey, can you help setting up Wi-Fi services for our city at free of cost? And I said, we'll help you. First, we figured out whatever the city invests, federal government will invest equivalent amount of time. I said, okay, we will invest some money and we'll help you to get the federal funds equal amount. So we invested X $1,000 and they got federal another X. So 2X. Then we said, we will make your lighting smart first. Let's say if you are spending $1 million on lighting per annum, I'll convert into LED and smart lighting and I'll operate smartly. I'll reduce your operational cost. I'll reduce your energy cost, by which I'll also reduce your pollution. But whatever the savings you provide, you take some money, rest of the money, leave it for providing the same infrastructure, providing Wi-Fi services free of cost. And following the state level data policies, we'll also monetize for advertisements and everything. So suddenly the government is able to get free Wi-Fi services. Government is able to make lighting smart. By making lighting smart, energy consumption is reduced. When energy consumption is reduced, suddenly carbon footprint is reduced. You are providing a better cities. Not only that, there is an indirect help to the societies is today when light goes off city, or somebody has to complain, or city government of employee in a truck just goes in and around city. If there is any problem, they try to figure out, then repair it. Here, they can predict when the lighting is going to go down, or when they know that when it's going down, immediately they can go and fix it, which helps to in terms of the safety side as well. So there is a huge opportunity in cities with evolving new innovative models, outcome as a service. That's it from my side. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Sridhar. We'll open it to questions.
Sure.
Sridhar, I had a quick question.
Sure.
While we collect questions, this entire urban operator model, how does that work? Is there any examples? If you could give an example to the audience of what kind of services is taken care of by the urban operator?
Sure. So there are companies like Cetelom, Ferrovial. So I think Cetelom manages hundreds of cities lighting. Ferrovial manages hundreds of cities of waste. So they have long-term contracts with the cities. Usually starts with 10 years, but once they sign, there is so much stickiness, it just goes for 20, 30 years. So they are a very traditional brick and mortar companies. They just maintain the light. And as I mentioned to you, if the light get damaged, somebody has to go complain, and then they go and they repair. It might take a day, 2 days. So, but today, the new generation, the expectations of citizens, expectations of societies is much more higher. In fact, today, not just countries compete, cities compete, right? Every city is trying to say that, hey, this specific multinational come to my city rather than going to other city for my economic growth. So there are expectations from cities to provide better infrastructure, better societies. So they don't want to wait for one day to light to be fixed. They want to be fixed with a certain SLAs.
Right.
And they want, at the same time, if you were paying $10 per month per light for maintaining, they only wanted to pay $4. Right? So that's where you'll be able to help urban operators to reduce the cost for them to be competitive, meet the new SLA demands of the cities, at the same time, provide better citizen services.
Right. And the other example you gave about, looking at a revenue model where you charge a fee share of, the violations. So is that for traffic violations as well?
Yeah. So multiple ways, right? One is traffic violation. So traffic violations, certain places the customer says, hey, I don't want you to control. I don't want you to go by whether tomorrow they don't want to do it, or tomorrow their policies might change. As long as you are able to operate, your technology works 98% uptime, I'm going to pay you per quarter this much. It's my job to make it operational. Certain countries, certain cities, we will own this and we are going to operate and we're going to give you revenue share. We're going to revenue share, but in case if we don't implement for whatever the political reasons, but we will still pay you. So different kinds of models. And there is, in fact, we have done a recent acquisition, which we'll be announcing early next week, which manages one country level urban services, entire land records on a single platform. And it also manages 5 state governments, urban services from a single platform. So some of the projects, what we have done, what we are doing, we invest into the entire infrastructure in the platform, and we charge per transaction. Every time citizen does a transaction, we take a revenue, a small transaction fee.
Wonderful. Do you see a proactiveness from cities in India, or is it at the state level?
So there is smart cities in India. There is mission called Smart City 1.0 at a central level.
Yeah.
Now the next thing what they are looking at is a smart city as a service. As you rightly said, smart city, earlier it is at a cities level for the smart city mission, 100 cities. But the new mission, which they are looking at a state level, because they wanted to look at the next level, let's say 100 towns in Telangana, 100 towns in Kerala. They're all small towns. It's very difficult for the central government or companies like us to reach out to small towns with the scale,
True,
right?
true.
It will become a cloud platform for 100 cities operating from a single, city, and provide it to become a state level.
For the young startup entrepreneur, is there an opportunity? And you made I think one of the big advices a lot of them would be taking away is what you said about, it's not about selling, it's about solving problems. So that, I'm sure, is a great takeaway for them, for people who are looking for ideas to get into this ecosystem of urban infrastructure. Any ideas or anything that they can take away from here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there is definitely huge opportunity. When you look at as an outsider, you say that, hey, government, it's impossible to work. There is eligibility criteria, and there's a huge, long bureaucratic process. But, when you look at a system integrator like L&T, who is already bidding for projects, or let's say urban operator or Cisco kind of companies, when they go to the market, they will have a platform which is one of their strengths, but they will not have independent solutions, right? For independent solution, they bring OEM partners. So that's where in our case it happened, right? So all these big companies look for very unique solutions which are created by the startups, and you become part of their ecosystem, and they sell your technology platform. It not only helping you to sell, they will also help you to scale, because they have a huge thousands of people, and there is an upside for them. The way they look at it is, okay, if I sell Quantilla's solution, let's for $1, I'm going to be able to sell $10 of my own solution along with it.
Right. That's phenomenal. Hey, thanks, Sridhar. Thanks a lot. I really hope that in the near future we'll get to meet you physically as well. All the best, and keep doing the pioneering work, and hope to read about more of Quantilla's achievements and achievements of Sridhar Gaddi. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rajesh. Bye-bye.